Jonathan Chick back with you with another episode of Shtisel Man. We're looking at Season 2, Episode 7 now. And last episode we talked about religious extremism. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how the TV and media, intentionally or unintentionally, get some things wrong or distort some of the Haredi lifestyle. So here we have Hanina and Ruchami. They're just married. It's called Shana Rishona, the first year of marriage. And during the first year of marriage, the Torah is very specific about the requirements of a husband towards his wife, specifically around not abandoning the house or leaving, certainly for extended periods of time, without the explicit permission of the wife. The notion that they talk about in this episode and in the series that Hanina would just simply disappear off to yeshiva for periods, including Shabbat, including over the weekend, and the nonstop learning is actually pretty ludicrous. It is. Will it happen in extreme cases when there's someone who's living in an extreme interpretation of what the Torah, and really a wrong interpretation of what the Torah expects? Yeah, for sure. But that's extreme exceptions. And I'm really curious about where the authors and the writers got, and I love this show, but I'm really a little bit curious about both in terms of the young marriage, which is a little bit of a stretch to say the least, and especially in non-Sephardic circles. And secondly, this Hanina disappearing to learn, the fact that he was even in the synagogue himself learning was somewhat bizarre. Again, there's always exceptions. But to make this sort of like a thing where, she's pining for her husband who's away studying the Torah and his love is really more for the Torah than for his wife, this is a little bit far-fetched. And I think it's really not a fair portrayal of what generally Jewish and Haredi young couples do when they're first married. In reality, when they're first married, the husband, and if he's learning in Kollel, which is the adult married learning, he's called either in Yiddish, a Jungelite or an Avrech in Hebrew. These Kollel men specifically are asked to study the morning and afternoon Seder in the yeshiva, in the study hall, but in the night Seder to stay at home with their wives. So how much more so if you're telling a Kollel student to stay home with your wife and then evenings and not go to attend the evening Seder, maybe evening time of learning, maybe study at your house or just spend time with your wife, how much more so a husband would not disappear off to a yeshiva far away and not see their wife for weeks on end. This is a little bit of almost like a silly, portrayal. A little bit far-fetched. And again, I don't fault the authors in the sense that they're making it into, and in fact, it's one of the great things about Shtisel, that they don't make it into sort of a pejorative or a attack on Haredi lifestyle. And I am not Haredi in the slightest in terms of what Haredi represents in Israel, so to speak. But I am an Orthodox Jew, and I do recognize and I have people very close to me who study in Kollel, and I know, and certainly people who've spent their first year in marriage in Kollel, and they do not just escape or disappear for the whole entire period of time. That is really, really not only is it not correct, it is not halachically, legally accepted. It would be considered really, there's a specific verse in the Torah, V'simach es ishto, and you shall make your wife happy. And that specifically refers, it's not just the first year, but it's specifically referring to the first year of marriage. It definitely applies beyond that, but the specific intent of the verse is first year of marriage. How are you going to support and make your wife happy if you're not there? So this is a bit of a stretch. Love you guys, love you Shtisel writers, but on this one, I'd have to take a little bit pushback. Anyway, we'll be back with more Shtisel Man coming up soon. Thanks again for listening, and please subscribe.